The Resolute glided smoothly through the void of space, its sleek hull a symbol of humanity's ever-growing reach across the stars. Sergeant Cassius Cass Riley stood at the bridge of the ship, staring out at the massive structure ahead. The Galactic Council hub, a sprawling megastructure in the heart of galactic politics. The hub, a neutral space station hosting delegates from hundreds of alien species, was the beating heart of the galaxy's most powerful governing body. For many, the sight of it inspired awe. For Cass, it was the stage upon which humanity's future would be decided. Humanity had come a long way. Just a few decades ago, they had been on the fringes of galactic exploration. Now, they were an official member of the Galactic Council, a seat that came with immense political weight and immense danger. As the first human ambassador to the Council, Cass had been chosen not for his diplomatic skills, but for his experience in the most dangerous situations. He had survived wars, battles, and missions that would have obliterated lesser species, and now he was tasked with securing humanity's place among the stars. Cass adjusted his uniform and turned to face his crew. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Arlen, a sharp-minded officer from Earth, looked at him with a mix of admiration and concern. "Ready for this?" Arlen asked, his tone laced with the usual skepticism that came from dealing with an unpredictable mission. "It's not going to be easy, you know. The Kharad have been gunning for us since the moment we arrived." Cass gave a wry smile, his face hardening with determination. "I didn't come this far to back down now." The Kharad, an ancient, ruthless empire, were humanity's greatest threat. The Council had been dominated by their influence for centuries, and though humanity's technological rise was seen as a beacon of hope by some, it was a challenge to the Kharad's dominance. The old empire saw humanity's sudden appearance on the galactic scene as a threat to their long-held rule, and they would do everything in their power to crush them. The Resolute docked with the hub, the docking clamps humming as the ship connected to the station's massive port. Cass could feel the familiar pulse of the station's gravity well as the hatch opened, signaling his arrival at the heart of galactic politics. World building and background asterisk. As Cass stepped onto the sleek metallic floors of the Galactic Council hub, he was immediately struck by the diversity of species around him. Tall, slender Cerati with long tendrils, covered in luminescent skin, glided by in graceful, fluid movements. Stocky, armored Draelics, their battle-worn exoskeletons clicking in rhythm as they marched. A few Azeran, cyborgs whose bodies were an intricate blend of organic and mechanical, moved with the precision of sentient machines. The scale and diversity were breathtaking, but it was also overwhelming. Cass's mind focused as he continued walking. He had been briefed on the cultures of every race he might encounter here. He knew how to keep his cool, how to play the game. But it wasn't just diplomacy that worried him. It was the growing undercurrent of hostility toward humanity. As he approached the central chamber of the Council, Cass noticed several key factions watching him. The Vorkari, a species of highly intelligent and aloof beings who valued logic above all else, eyed him with suspicion. The Gadrav, a mercantile race known for their sharp business acumen, exchanged quiet words among themselves, no doubt calculating how humanity's presence could impact their economic interests. And then there were the Kharad, their representatives, tall and imposing, with skin as black as space itself, stood in a corner, observing with cold, predatory eyes. Cass didn't need to be told that the Kharad's disdain for humanity was legendary. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, and the rise of humans, especially their sudden technological advancements, was a thorn in their side. Cass knew that Vrethza, the Kharad Archon, would be watching his every move, waiting for any opportunity to undermine him. Inciting incident asterisk. Cass was ushered into the Grand Council chamber, where the seats of power were arranged in a circle, with representatives from dozens of species filling the seats. As Cass stepped forward to the central podium, his heart beat in time with the hum of the station's engines. The chamber fell silent as Cass prepared to speak, his words carefully chosen. He had a mission, to present humanity's proposal for a greater role in the galaxy, one that would secure a lasting peace economic alliances, and military cooperation with the galactic powers. Humanity's technological advancements and adaptability were its greatest strengths, and Cass knew that if he could convince the Council of Humanity's value, the Kharad's influence would begin to wane. Honored delegates, Cass began, his voice steady. Humanity comes before you today, not as a conqueror, but as a partner. We seek peace, prosperity, and mutual growth for all species in the galaxy. He paused, scanning the room. Several delegates nodded, while others exchanged skeptical looks. The Kharad delegation remained eerily still, their expressionless faces betraying no emotion. But just as Cass was about to continue, a voice broke through the silence. "That's quite an ambitious proposal, Sergeant Riley," came a sharp, chilling voice. The speaker was Vreth-Za, the Kharad Archon, tall and menacing. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, his presence radiating authority. "However, I wonder if your species understands the true price of such ambition." Cass felt the temperature in the room drop. He could sense the animosity in Vreth-Za's voice, the unspoken threat beneath the surface. He knew that Vreth-Za wasn't interested in peace, he was interested in domination. The Kharad had controlled this galaxy for eons, and the idea of a new species rising up was unacceptable to them. "I understand the value of peace, Archon," Cass replied, his tone unwavering. "But humanity will no longer cower in the shadows of empires." The tension in the room was palpable as the two leaders locked eyes, the challenge clear. Vreth-Za's lips curled into a cold smile. "And yet, here you stand," Vreth-Za sneered. "A mere Deathworlder. You and your kind have no place in the galaxy's future." The word Deathworlder stung, but Cass held his ground. He had heard the term before. Humans were called that by the galactic elite because of the harsh conditions of Earth and humanity's ability to survive on a planet that nearly every other species would find inhospitable. It was meant to be an insult, but Cass knew that humanity's survival instincts were exactly what the galaxy needed. The room erupted into whispers, and Cass knew that the seeds of conflict had been planted. The Kharad weren't just going to sit back and let humanity rise. The real battle for humanity's future had just begun. Conflict Introduction **. As the meeting continued, Cass's proposal was overshadowed by the growing tension between him and Vreth-Za. The Kharad Archon made veiled threats, challenging humanity's place in the galaxy. Several other delegates openly questioned humanity's ability to handle its newfound influence, casting doubt on Cass's intentions. But it wasn't just the Kharad who were a threat. Cass knew that other alien factions were just as wary of humanity's growing power. The Council was a volatile mix of interests, and Cass had to navigate these treacherous waters if humanity was to survive. As the session came to a close, Cass was escorted from the chamber by his team. The Kharad had made their message clear. Humanity wasn't welcome. But Cass wasn't about to back down. He had come this far, and he would fight for humanity's place in the galaxy, no matter the cost. Chapter 1, Cliffhanger **. As Cass left the council chamber, his communicator buzzed urgently. A coded message flashed on the screen. **, assassination attempt imminent. Proceed with caution. **. His heart skipped a beat. The Kharad weren't done. They would stop at nothing to ensure humanity's failure. Cass had just become the target. With a sharp breath, he tightened his grip on his weapon. The stakes had just gotten higher, and there was no turning back. The corridors of the Galactic Council hub were deceptively calm, an eerie silence punctuated only by the soft hum of the station's massive engines. Cass walked briskly through the endless metallic hallways, flanked by two of his security officers. His mind raced. The assassination attempt he'd narrowly avoided had shaken him, but it was only the first shot in what was sure to be a protracted war of words, influence, and power. He needed to regroup. He needed to figure out his next move. But most of all, he needed to stay ahead of the Kharad, because Vreth-Za wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. As he reached his temporary quarters, Cass was greeted by Ambassador Taluva, a high-ranking diplomat from the Azeroth species. Taluva was a being of mystery, their smooth, silver-gray skin reflecting the ambient light of the station. The Azeroth were an enigmatic species, known for their vast knowledge of galactic politics and their ability to remain neutral in the most volatile of situations. Tuluva had been a trusted ally during humanity's early days in the Council, but Cass knew that even their neutrality came with a price. "I take it you've already heard about the incident," Tuluva said, their voice cool and calculating. "The Kharad's reach is long, Cass. We both know this was no random attack." Cass nodded grimly, stepping into his quarters and motioning for Tuluva to follow. He closed the door behind them with a soft click, ensuring they weren't overheard. "I expected as much. The Kharad won't rest until they've either crushed humanity's influence or we're completely out of the picture." Tuluva raised an eyebrow, their expression unreadable. "Your assumptions are not unfounded, but you must be cautious. You're not just a human diplomat now, Cass. You're a target, and this mission, it's far more dangerous than you realize." Rising threat asterisk. Cass's mind was still sharp, but the constant pressure of the Kharad threat was beginning to take its toll. Every corner he turned, every hallway he walked down, he could feel eyes on him. He wasn't just fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy anymore. He was fighting for his own survival. Tuluva continued to speak, offering insight that Cass needed but didn't want to hear. Vrethza's ambitions run deeper than you might think. The Kharad don't just want to eliminate humanity, they want to dismantle the Council itself. They've been working for centuries to undermine the balance of power. Humanity's rise threatens that balance. Then why don't the rest of the Council do something? Cass asked, frustration creeping into his voice. Why haven't they acted against the Kharad? Tuluva's eyes glinted, a faint, knowing smile crossing their face. Because many in the Council fear the Kharad, just as they fear humanity. The Kharad have allies here, Cass, people who benefit from their dominance, who profit from their exploitation of less powerful species. And there are those who would rather see humanity falter than challenge the status quo. Cass clenched his fists. Great. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and no one's willing to make a move. No, Tuluva said, their voice steady. You're not stuck, but you have to act with precision. The Council has its flaws, but there are still allies who will back you. You'll need them, but don't expect it to be easy. The web of deception asterisk. Cass spent the next several hours poring over information, digging deeper into the Council's political landscape. The Kharad were indeed a dominant force, but they weren't alone in their disdain for humanity's rapid rise. Several smaller factions, especially those who had long been subjugated by the Kharad, were growing restive, seeking a way to break free from their oppressors. The Jinthari, a race of insectoid beings who had suffered under Kharad rule for centuries, had been quietly making moves within the Council. Their leader, Rylak, had shown an interest in forming an alliance with humanity, though it was unclear if that was out of genuine solidarity or a desire to use humanity's strength as a counterbalance to the Kharad's power. Cass also uncovered a disturbing piece of information. The Kharad had been infiltrating the Council for years, embedding operatives in various factions, manipulating key votes, and spreading disinformation. Vrethza was playing a long game, and humanity was merely a pawn in his greater scheme. If the Kharad could destabilize the Council, they would once again rule the galaxy with unchecked power. Cass knew that time was running out. He had to act before the Kharad's influence spread any further. Secondary characters and complications asterisk. While Cass tried to decipher the tangled web of galactic politics, he encountered another complication. Counselor Lyra Th*, a member of the Vorkari, who had always held a neutral stance on the human issue. The Vorkari were known for their cold logic and calculated diplomacy. Lyra Th had always been an enigma to Cass, never showing any real emotion. But Cass's recent encounter with the Vorkari delegation in the Council chamber had left him wondering. Could Lyra Th be an ally, or was she just another player in the Kharad's game? When Cass sought her out for a private meeting, he found himself faced with a calculated response. Lyra Th was less than forthcoming about her true feelings, and Cass could sense that she was playing her own hand. It wasn't just about humanity's survival. It was about the power struggle between the Council factions. You must understand, Sergeant Riley, Lyridate said, her voice cold and deliberate. The Vorkari are not concerned with the survival of any one species, not even yours. We value logic, and your actions, while admirable, threaten the delicate balance of power we have worked so hard to maintain. Cass resisted the urge to lash out. You're more concerned with balance than survival? Lyrityh's gaze was sharp. Balance is survival. If the Kharad fall, what happens next? Chaos. And chaos is far more dangerous than the tyranny of one empire. Revealing the antagonist's role asterisk. Later that evening, Cass's suspicions about Lyrityh were confirmed when he intercepted a coded transmission. The message was from Vrethza himself, and it was clear that Lyrityh was part of the Kharad's inner circle. She was more than just a neutral observer. She was a key player in the Kharad's plan to destabilize the Council. The Vorkari, it seemed, had made a calculated decision. If they couldn't control humanity, they would manipulate the situation to their advantage. The realization hit Cass like a punch to the gut. The political web he had been trying to navigate was far more treacherous than he had imagined. The Kharad weren't just acting through brute force. They were using deception, alliances, and manipulation to achieve their goal. Cass now understood that humanity wasn't just fighting for its seat at the table. They were fighting for their very survival in a galaxy that was not only hostile but rife with betrayals at every turn. Every move had to be calculated, every ally scrutinized. There was no room for mistakes. Chapter 2, Cliffhanger Asterisk. As Cass stood in his quarters, staring at the encrypted message, his communicator buzzed once again. This time, the message was from Rylak, the leader of the Jinthari. The insectoid leader had one question. Are you ready to make your move, Sergeant Riley? Because the Kharad are already coming for you. Cass's heart raced as he realized that time had run out. The Kharad were moving, and humanity's only hope lay in uniting those who were willing to fight, not just for peace, but for the future of the galaxy itself. The silence of the Resolute bridge was broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Cass stood at the helm, staring out at the stars as they streaked by. His thoughts were clouded by the recent events. Every decision had consequences, and every ally was a potential betrayer. He had once believed that diplomacy could solve humanity's problems, but now, in the heart of the Galactic Council, he realized that survival would take more than negotiation. It would take cunning, deception, and ruthless action. His mind returned to the transmission he had intercepted from Vrethza, the Kharad Archon's cryptic message to Lyritych, the Vorkari counselor. It was clear that Lyrityh was not just a neutral player in the council. She was a collaborator. The realization that someone in the council was actively working with the Kharad weighed heavily on Cass's mind. His trust had been shattered, and with it, his faith in the fragile alliances he had tried to build. The stakes had never been higher. The Kharad were plotting in the shadows, pulling strings behind the scenes, and Cass was running out of time. He had to move quickly before they moved against him. Increasing the stakes asterisk. That evening, Cass met with his trusted team, Lieutenant Arlen, Commander Yara, an experienced fighter pilot, and Ensign Thorn, a communication specialist. They were gathered in the war room, a small conference room deep within the Resolute. The atmosphere was tense. The team had been working tirelessly to uncover more information on the Kharad's machinations, but every lead seemed to turn into a dead end. We've been going in circles, Arlen said, his voice frustrated. The Kharad's influence runs deep. Lyritych's ties to them are undeniable, but they're cloaked in secrecy. We don't even know who else is involved. Cass rubbed his temples, trying to focus. We need to find the core of their operation. We can't take them down one piece at a time. We have to expose the entire network. Yara stepped forward, her eyes sharp. Cass, we've already exposed enough to warrant a full-scale investigation, but we're running out of allies. The Council won't back us up if we don't play by their rules. We need someone on the inside, someone we could trust. I'm not sure there's anyone left we can trust, Cass muttered, the weight of the situation pressing on him. Thorn, the youngest of the team, spoke up nervously. What if we don't go after the Kharad directly? What if we turn the tables and make them think we're going for someone else in the Council? We could create a distraction, something big enough to shift their focus. Cass glanced at Thorn, the suggestion hanging in the air. It was risky, deceptive even, but in this environment, deception was the only language the Council understood. The Kharad were already trying to destabilize everything. Maybe the best way to fight back was to give them a taste of their own medicine. We'll need to act fast, Cass said, his voice resolute. But there's no time to waste. Prepare for a diversion. We're going after the heart of their operations. Internal doubts and character development asterisk. As the team set their plans in motion, Cass found himself alone in his quarters, staring out at the swirling expanse of space. The weight of leadership was bearing down on him. The choices he was about to make would have consequences far beyond anything he had faced before. His duty to humanity was clear, but the personal cost of his decisions gnawed at him. Was he becoming too much like the Kharad? Was his desperation clouding his judgment? The doubts were familiar, a dark shadow that crept into his mind whenever the pressure mounted. He had been a soldier before all this, someone who lived by instinct, by action. But as a diplomat, his world had changed. His responsibility was no longer just to himself or even to his fellow soldiers, but to an entire species. Humanity was counting on him to secure their future. There was no room for failure. He had fought in wars, he had watched his comrades fall, but none of it had felt as heavy as this. This endless chess game with galactic powers who played with lives as pawns. Every move he made, every decision he took had to count. But what if he was wrong? What if humanity didn't belong here, among the stars? His thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. Cass. It was Tuluva. I need to speak with you. Cass sighed and opened the door, feeling the familiar tension he had come to expect from their meetings. Come in. Tuluva stepped inside, their expression unreadable. I've been thinking about our course of action. They began. The plan you're about to implement, it's dangerous, and it will change everything. I don't have time to rethink it, Cass replied. We're running out of time. The Kharad will not stop until we're finished. I understand that, Tuluva said, their voice calm. But I'm not just worried about the Kharad. You're playing a dangerous game, Cass. If you push too far, you risk alienating those who might still be on your side. You might even lose humanity's position here, permanently. Cass felt a surge of frustration. I don't have the luxury of worrying about the Council's approval. We've been playing their game for too long. It's time for humanity to show them what we're made of. Tuluva studied him silently, then spoke with a weight that Cass hadn't anticipated. It's not just the Kharad you need to defeat, Cass. It's the fear. The fear that humanity is too unpredictable, too dangerous. There are species here who are afraid of what humanity could become if it's allowed to thrive. Cass felt a chill run down his spine. And you think I'm feeding that fear? Tuluva's eyes softened. No, but you're not helping it either. Obstacles and betrayals asterisk. Later that day, Cass's fears were realized. He received an encrypted message from Rylak, the leader of the Jinthari, who had previously expressed interest in an alliance. The message was brief, cryptic, and filled with double meanings. Asterisk, your plan is in motion. Be cautious. There are eyes everywhere, and not all are on your side. Asterisk, the warning was clear. Rylak was not just speaking of the Kharad. There were other players in this game, and some were already positioned to betray humanity. Cass wasn't sure who he could trust anymore. He had been operating on the assumption that the Jinthari were allies, but what if they were simply playing both sides? What if they were more interested in using humanity as a pawn in their own struggle for freedom from the Kharad? The truth was that the galaxy was filled with opportunists, and humanity had been thrust into the middle of a battle they hadn't fully understood. As the plan to expose the Kharad's manipulation of the Council gained momentum, Cass received word that a council session had been called earlier than expected. It was an emergency meeting, and the Kharad were certain to have a hand in it. Cass was running out of time. The Kharad were making their move, and now he had to choose whether to expose them and risk the collapse of humanity's standing or play it safe and lose everything. As Cass prepared to meet with his team, the door to his quarters opened once again. This time it wasn't Tuluva. It was Lieutenant Arlen, holding a data pad with a grave expression. Cass, you need to see this. He handed over the pad, and Cass's eyes widened as the information came into view. The Kharad had launched a covert attack on one of humanity's critical supply lines. They had begun to stage a full-scale war against humanity, an act of aggression meant to cripple their economy and military strength. The clock was ticking. If Cass didn't act now, humanity could lose everything in a matter of days. With his heart pounding, Cass made a decision. "We go to war," he said, his voice unwavering. "The Kharad won't get away with this." The Resolute hurtled through space, its engines roaring with the force of a battleship on a desperate mission. Cass stood at the bridge once again, this time accompanied by his trusted team, Arlen, Yara, Thorn, and Tuluva. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The council had convened for an emergency session to address the crisis with the Kharad, and Cass knew that this was the moment that would determine humanity's future. Cass's mind raced as he prepared for the final confrontation. The Kharad had made their move, sabotaging humanity's supply lines, pulling strings within the council, and orchestrating covert attacks. But Cass wasn't about to let them get away with it. He had gathered all the evidence needed to expose their machinations, and now it was time to take the fight to the council. "You know what's at stake here," Cass said, his voice steady but sharp. "The Kharad are pushing us to the edge, but this is our chance to turn the tables. We expose them now, or they'll destroy us." Tuluva nodded, their expression unreadable. "But you must be careful. This is not just a political battle. It's a war of perception. The Kharad have many allies, and if you expose them too forcefully, you risk alienating other factions." "I'm not here to play politics anymore," Cass replied, his tone resolute. "I'm here to protect humanity." With a final nod, Cass turned toward the door. It was time. The council confrontation asterisk. As Cass entered the council chamber, the tension in the air was palpable. The room was filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy, each species perched on the edge of their seats, awaiting the revelation of what humanity had discovered. Cass walked confidently to the central podium, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The Kharad delegation was seated at the far end of the room, Vrethza's cold eyes following his every move. Cass stepped up to the podium and addressed the council. His voice was clear and strong, filled with the weight of humanity's survival. "Honored delegates," he began, his gaze sweeping over the room. "Today, I stand before you not only as a representative of humanity, but as a witness to a conspiracy that threatens the future of this entire galaxy." A murmur rippled through the room. The Kharad's operatives were no longer hiding their discomfort. Over the past few days, we have uncovered irrefutable evidence that the Kharad have been manipulating the council for centuries. They have infiltrated key positions, spread disinformation, and have even resorted to outright sabotage against humanity. Cass paused, letting his words settle. The Kharad delegation, led by Vrethza, remained silent, but their tense posture spoke volumes. Vrethza's eyes burned with fury, but he held his tongue, for now. "I have gathered records of secret communications, intercepted transmissions, and physical evidence that links the Kharad directly to a covert war against humanity's interests. They've been sabotaging our supply lines, spreading lies about our intentions, and threatening those who dare to defy them." At that moment, a flicker of motion caught Cass's eye. One of the council members, Zethary, had stood up. His voice cut through the room, sharp and accusatory. "You have no proof, Sergeant Riley. These are wild claims. The Kharad have been a stabilizing force in this galaxy for centuries. We can't just let one species, humanity, disturb that." Cass's gaze hardened. The Kharad have maintained stability through fear and oppression. They've held this galaxy in a stranglehold for too long. But humanity is different. We will not be intimidated by those who would see us enslaved. Another delegate, a Gadrav, spoke up. "Enough of this. The Kharad are powerful, and if humanity is going to make accusations like this, they better have the evidence to back it up." Cass's fingers tightened around the podium. He could feel the eyes of the room on him. This was it, his moment to prove humanity's worth, or to lose it all. Do you think that the Kharad are the only ones capable of bringing order? Cass's voice was low, but his words rang out. Humanity has survived on a death world where every day is a battle. We have risen to the stars not because of divine right, but because of our ingenuity, our strength, and our will to survive. You think we can't stand up to the Kharad? You're wrong. With that, Cass activated a holographic display, showing the damning evidence. Intercepted transmissions between Vrethza and council members, plans for sabotage, hidden weapon caches, all linked directly to the Kharad. The room fell silent as the council members took in the data. Vrethza rose from his seat, his expression a mask of cold fury. His voice rang out, full of venom. You are a fool, Sergeant Riley. You think you can challenge the might of the Kharad? You and your species are nothing more than Deathworlders, savages pretending to belong in a world of order. The Kharad Archon's eyes narrowed. You are a pest. Humanity is a threat to everything we've built. If you think you can stop us, you will learn the true meaning of destruction. Cass didn't flinch. You've already underestimated us once. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm taking humanity's place in this galaxy, and if you stand in our way, you'll fall. The turning point asterisk. As Vrethza's threats filled the air, a surprising turn of events unfolded. A few of the council members, those who had secretly been sympathetic to humanity's plight, stood up one by one. They began speaking out against the Kharad's oppressive tactics, some offering support for Cass's claims, others questioning the legitimacy of Vrethza's leadership. We've seen what the Kharad have done to the Jinthari, the Vorkari, and countless other species. One of the delegates, a Color, a fierce warrior species, spoke loudly. It is time for the galaxy to face the truth. The Kharad's grip must end. The tide was turning. Humanity's allies, previously silent out of fear or self-interest, were now vocal in their condemnation of the Kharad's actions. The galaxy was no longer a place where the Kharad could rule unchallenged. Climax asterisk. Vrethza's expression darkened, realizing that his power was slipping. But even in the face of mounting opposition, the Kharad were not easily cowed. Then let it be known, Vrethza hissed, his voice filled with malice. The Kharad will not stand idly by while their empire is torn apart. This galaxy will burn before we allow your species to flourish. But Cass, now standing at the center of the room, stared at the Kharad Archon with unwavering resolve. Then you'll burn with it. In that moment, Cass made his final decision. Humanity would not back down. He would push forward, not just with diplomacy, but with the strength of conviction that had carried his species through centuries of struggle. With a signal to his team, Cass activated the final piece of his plan, a full reveal of the Kharad's manipulation of the Council. Every hidden alliance, every covert assassination attempt, every illegal trade, it all came to light in a series of powerful holograms that left no room for doubt. The Kharad's deception was exposed, and the Council was forced to act. Resolution. Vrethza's empire was dealt a heavy blow. The Council, now united in their condemnation of the Kharad's tactics, voted to expel them from their seat of power. For the first time in centuries, the Kharad were forced to retreat from the galactic stage. Cass stood tall as the room erupted in applause. Humanity had not only survived the Council's scrutiny, they had triumphed. They had proven that no matter how dark the odds, the human spirit could endure, fight, and overcome. As the session concluded, Cass made his way to the door, his team by his side. Taluva placed a hand on his shoulder, nodding with quiet approval. "You did it," Taluva said. Cass looked out at the stars, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "We did it, but this is just the beginning." Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not by appeasing the powerful, but by standing firm in the face of overwhelming odds. And Cass knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would continue to rise, unwavering, unyielding.